Welcome to Overwatch. What's next?
All right. How you doing?
Hello, BlizzCon.
What's up, everybody?
How's everyone doing? All right. Well, we're really happy to be here today. We're going to be talking about Overwatch. We're going to be talking about what's next in Overwatch, which hopefully you all saw earlier. We're going to be focusing on Overwatch's new hero. She's hero number 29, our new damage hero, which means that I won't be very good with her, but Jeff will be good and probably kill me in playtest. Yeah. So there's that to look forward to. Ashe is a really interesting character, and she came about in a unique way, and so we're really going to dive into that today and just talk about all aspects of her character. But before we do that, I want to just do some quick introductions. I'm Michael Chu. I'm the lead writer on Overwatch, so I'm responsible for, backstory, the stuff she says.
My name is Jason Hill. I'm actually the project director for the cinematic that you watched earlier today. I'm part of story and franchise development, and we'll find out more about that a little bit later.
Yeah, and did we all enjoy that movie earlier?
Was it okay? You liked it? All right, cool.
So good. I'm Jeff Goodman, the lead hero designer. I was in charge of designing Ashe's abilities and your kit.
I'm Arnold Sang. I'm the assistant art director of Overwatch, and I do art direction on all of the characters that make it into the game.
All right, so as you may know, when we start making a new character, one of the things that we really like to get into is the backstory of the character. How did this hero end up being who she is? And our favorite way to do that is to do what we call the Origins movie. And so we have an Origins movie for Ashe. I think you guys might be all excited to see that, learn a little bit more about her character.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's roll the video.
Everybody needs a family. Because it's not fair facing the world alone. I don't care how tough you think you are. They should always be there for support. No matter what. In the best of times, they will arm you with the tools to succeed. And in the worst of times, they will understand when things don't really go the way you planned. Now, some people are lucky enough to be born into the perfect family. Others, well, they go out and make one on their own. And once you've done that, anything is possible if everyone pulls their own weight. So, if you want to be part of my family, I do have one little rule. It's my way. Or, well, who am I kidding? It's my way.
So let's talk about Ashe as a character. Oh, can I go back one slide? Sorry. This is a great picture, so we gotta take some time to look at it.
Enjoy it. It's great.
There we go. So who is Ashe? Ashe is an awesome character because she is a villain. We would consider her to be a little bit of the villainous persuasion. And those characters are always really fun to get into because there's always a core question, which is like, why is this character the way she is? What made Ashe the way she is? And so, like a lot of the bad guys in the Overwatch universe, Ashe actually came from an extremely wealthy background, a lot of privilege. Her parents were extremely wealthy, as you can see from this well-appointed manor house that they live in. And so they were CEO coaches, and they advised people, and they were talkers, and she had everything. She grew up with riches, the whole deal. She had the tea and biscuits. She had her butler, and so she had all this, and yet none of it really spoke to her. And it was a chance encounter when she was young with another young character who you may be familiar with, Jessie McCree, who opened her eyes to the possibilities of the criminal side of things. You know, she meets this budding miscreant Jessie, and they do some small crimes together, and just small ones, and she found that she was excited by it, and she really enjoyed it, and more than that, she thought that it was something that she was good at. It was something where she felt she could really distinguish herself and make a name for herself, and it's something that really appealed to her. I love this picture here because we've got Bob, her faithful butler, who's always there to. Yeah, Bob. Yeah, I was joking that this is Hero 29 and Hero 29.5.
29.5. Yeah. Bob was always there.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember when we were talking about her character in making this piece, and we were just going over ideas of her character, and we were like, what if Bob was her butler?
What if? I mean, for Bob, like, what else do you call it? A big omnic bodyguard or a big omnic butler? What is that? We'll let you figure it out. Bob.
So basically, Ash got this first taste of the criminal life, and she found it was something that she was interested in. And so she convinced young Jessie McCree and two other nameless people here to found the Deadlock Gang. And so her idea was, the Deadlock Gang can go out there, we're going to go bigger and bigger heists, we're going to make our names out there, and we're going to write our legend in the American Southwest, which was, we haven't really gone into it, but in the Overwatch universe, the American Southwest it's a little lawless. There's the Deadlock Gang, but there are also other groups who are out there, knocking over trains, robbing banks, and all that good stuff. And so it was, they wanted the Deadlock Gang to really be an important part of that infrastructure. And it's actually there where Ash really shone, because more than just being good at organizing the heists and being a criminal and all that stuff, is that she found that the lessons that she learned from her parents, watching them in action, coaching people, organization, rules, all that, she thought that that would be the perfect thing to bring to all these lawless groups who, they were spending more time working against each other. Like two people show up to rob the same train, instead they fight each other, and it's a big problem. And so she was able to sort of organize all these groups so that, when they have trouble with each other, they go after each other. But in general, they could all just operate a little better. And I think it was Ash's kind of implementation of those rules of the criminal brotherhood that really worked out. And I think where does she get these rules? Where does she get this idea that relationships are very there's rules you have to follow, and people are supposed to behave in certain ways? Well, I think about it. She was probably a bit of a loner when she grew up. She probably talked to Bob, her butler,
a lot.
And so, what kind of lessons about living do you learn from your robot butler? I think they helped her out, and they helped her figure out what's going on. So, in a nutshell, that is Ash the character, and I'm going to hand it off now so that we can talk about some of the other aspects of creating her.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Michael. So, again, my name is Jason Hill, and I'm part of story and franchise development. And for those of you who don't know what story and franchise development is within Blizzard, we're the department that does the novels and the comic books and the statues. We also do the 2D pieces like the Origins piece, some of the in-game cinematics, but we also do the high pre-rendered cinematics, like the episodes that you saw today with McCree. So this is story and franchise development. So let's actually talk about kind of how this character came to be and how she grew. And really, it started way back in the before time, in the long ago, when I was approached and said, hey, do you want to direct a Western? And at which point you say yes, because who doesn't want to direct a Western? And at that point you also know, hey, you know what, that means McCree. So yes, please, where do I sign? But what really kind of intrigued me about this piece when we first started to talk about it, before there was a script or anything like that, was McCree and the train's going to crash, and there's the payload at the end, and the Deadlock Gang's there. That's kind of all we knew at that point. And so what for me personally, what really appealed to me was the fact that we could explore the Deadlock Gang. And for when I'm watching a TV show or a movie or reading, comic or whatever like that, and there's a group of individuals there that are, whether they're bounty hunters or pirates or cowboys or outlaws, if they're all very unique, you want to know their backstory. You want to know more about them, but we may not be able to tell that entire story. And so that's really what I wanted to get out of the Deadlock gang is just hopefully everybody, when you guys watch it, go, I just want to know more about them. That in a perfect world, that would have been great. Because at that point, didn't have an idea that she was going to be a hero. We hadn't even had those conversations. So I actually had one of our storyboard artists, Mio. I did the pitch. I'm like, a big Omnic bodyguard, something. We've seen the normal Omnics, kind of human shaped, and we've seen the Bastion style ones, but we hadn't seen anything else. And they should be able to come in all shapes and sizes. And the leader, should just be this female with this big brim hat and this long duster and a lever action rifle. And then we should just fill out with other members of the gang we can explore. And so Mio went off and drew, and this is actually this is probably the first image of Ash ever drawn. And when he brought it to me, I'm like, yes, that's it. This invoked the feeling that I wanted. There was this woman, like, kind of front and center, who's like, I'm not going to mess with her. She looks powerful. She's definitely, she's got a commanding presence. She's got this giant Omnic in the back that has a mustache. Come on, you can't go wrong with that.
Not a hat yet.
No hat yet. The hat came later. But again, and so you have other members of the gang that we, kind of explored a lot of different things with, and we can definitely talk about that. But then as we started to storyboard the process, because this was more about McCree was just going to face off against the gang, and as we started to storyboard the process a little bit more, it really became clear that Ash kept coming to the foreground super fast. She was very compelling, even in the storyboards. Like, we want to know more about her. Who is? What does she sound like? What is she saying? What is, I can't wait to see this character animated. So we knew there was something kind of special about her. And so after all the storyboards were done and we had a script, then it was time to actually start doing some concepts for her. We had the basic concept that the storyboard, we definitely needed to flesh it out more for the 3D models for the cinematic and then eventually for the gameplay. So Zhang Ha Li, she's one of our concept artists. She's phenomenal. This is actually some of the very, very, very first designs of Ash, and they are awesome. They came in, we're like, whoa, that's exactly what we said. Big hat, long white hair, rifle, all the stuff. But she's not an Overwatch character. She didn't have that like special sauce. There wasn't something about her that we're like, yes, that's just right out of the gate, that's perfect. And the other thing is, the more we looked at her, we're like, she's kind of has more of a gothic look, and you would expect her to be hunting vampires or werewolves or something like that. So it wasn't quite right. Again, super cool, not quite right, but there was one bigger problem when we started to kind of step back and you do the squint test where you're kind of like, how does this look? And we realized,
Yeah.
so you guys see it. I don't have to spell. Okay. Silhouette and color palette were a little too similar to Reaper. And for both in cinematics and in the game, we definitely want a very clear character read. As they run through the frame, as you're like, scoping in on them, you want to know who you're going after or who you're seeing super fast. So at this point, we knew we had to continue to explore the space. We had to continue to try more designs. So I asked Zhang Ha, I'm like, just go. Just run with it. And this is the first one that she came back with. Again, super cool. Really just like, this is a great design. But the same problem with Reaper, it was a little too much like McCree. Same color palette, cowboy boots. We did not want a female McCree. We wanted a character who could stand on their own, have their own identity, and just be really strong. So we asked, let's keep pushing that a little bit. Next one, came across a little too punk rock. Cool, but definitely a little punk rock there. This third one, I love this. Like this is I'm going to put this in design in my back pocket, and maybe it'll show up later in something else.
We'll save these for potential use in the future.
Something else.
Yeah.
But and it's super. But the problem was that the keyword is super, and she looks like a superhero here, not the leader of a gang. And we want to get her back to kind of that biker gang vibe. And so we were like, okay, kind of let's steer the ship back. Let's start going back to the hat, the black hat and stuff like that. This is the next one's getting closer, a little too youthful, didn't have kind of that commanding presence that we were kind of looking for. Super cool, but you're starting to see pieces of Ash there. Another one, kind of a little steampunk, had a kind of a mobsters 20s, 30s vibe in there. Again, super, super cool. But what we kind of realized as we started to look at all of these, we were able to pull different parts from them, and ultimately we arrived here. And this was the approved design for Ash. And she had a strong silhouette. Everybody was like, yes, she's awesome. This is cool. This is great. What a great looking character. We did have to make one final modification. Ash needed a haircut. largely for production reasons in both the game and in the cinematics, simulating big flowing hair like we had in the concepts gets really, really difficult. So we're like, let's experiment with some haircuts, and we gave her this kind of offset bob, no pun intended, or pun intended. But we found it actually gave her a better silhouette. It gives her a sharper, edgier look and made her even cooler. So like we really couldn't go wrong.
What I like most about Ash's design and what you and Jung-Ah really did well was just mixing that biker theme with the Western kind of cowboy theme. And I really think you guys really married those elements together, and it really shows through in the final.
And that was something that, in talking with all the gentlemen here, we just didn't want another cowgirl. We didn't, but also at the same time, just a biker wasn't enough. It's like, what's that special thing?
Right,
and I feel like we really, hit the nail on the head. She's fantastic. You can't talk about Ash without talking about
Bob.
Guys, I'll be honest. Bob's my life coach now. he's gonna be my mascot. We love Bob. Bob was something that just kind of came out of like, you saw the storyboard. I gave a description. Mio drew that first pass. Then the hat came on, and he just became this character so quickly, and everybody was just like gravitating. We love Bob, and to kind of show you, this was Jean-Claude's one of her initial concepts for Bob, and that's the approved design for Bob. So not only is he my life coach, he's also apparently a unicorn, because he's so rare in production to have something go from just an idea to a final design so quickly. It's almost unheard of. So go Bob. Just to kind of show you again just how close, how close things went with Bob. This was a storyboard, an early storyboard for Bob. This is a final frame. So Bob was just meant to be. So with Ash's design and the animators are animating her, and she's coming together great, and we go, Bob's just, Bob. There was one final piece of the puzzle, and that is, what does Ash sound like? Who's her voice? Who portrays this character? We knew in this piece, we've got McCree, it's Matt Mercer. Like, Matt Mercer. Yeah. I see his family's here.
Everyone's his family.
Matt is so strong and so talented and just gives such a great performance that I really was like, we need somebody who could go toe-to-toe with him. And very early on in the process, I had an actress in mind, but as also the director of the piece, I didn't want my personal bias, my personal opinion to kind of take over and be like, I'm forcing this on you guys. It's good to just kind of explore the space, and maybe who knows what you'll find. And so we brought in a bunch of actresses, all of them phenomenal. We've been lucky to have so many of them. Again, there's a lot of stuff I'm putting in my back pocket from like, I'm going to remember this voice for something later. And then basically we got the auditions down to about 10 auditions left for Ash, and I had my editor, Nathan, run clips of Ash, and he just started running the dialogue and not telling me who the actress was. And it was about the 5th or 6th take. I'm like, that's it, that's Ash, that's without a question. And he just started laughing at me. He's like, you know what, that was your original. And he just started laughing at me. He's like, you know what, that was your original take. That was the original person you wanted. That was Jennifer Hale. So clearly, Jennifer is just a powerhouse in the industry. Even if you don't think you've heard her, you've heard her.
Voice of Diablo.
She is just not only the sweetest woman out there, but just can just bring so much personality to a character and just so much strength and just that extra little spice that really brings the character alive. But the other plus we had on this piece is we got them both in the booth together, and so having them ad-lib and riff and just improvise, this was just to me, this was a fantastic day just to watch this happen. So I cannot wait to see what the rest of the game team does with Ash, and in the future, or maybe not so far in the future, who knows. But something else happened while we were making this cinematic. I started to hear whispers in the hallway as like, hey, Ash might actually, the game team's thinking about making Ash as a character. It's like, really? Because I thought maybe we'd put her in a comic book or something like that after the fact, but a character? That's awesome. And then it started gaining steam. And to talk about how that happened, I'd like to hand this over to Jeff.
Thank you. All right, so yeah, let's talk about how she made it into the game. I think the most common question I probably get asked in interviews and things is, what is our design process like for getting a hero into the game? Like, where does it start?
You're saying it's not Mercy Nerf question?
No, the second, yeah, you're right. Okay, the second question I get is how it gets in the game. So it's interesting because the answer is it's not really the same every time. It comes from all over the place. Like, often we'll have some game design concept we want to play with, and then we kind of like, I go, all right, I want to do this crazy thing. Like, what does that look like to you?
You're crazy, Jeff.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty hard sometimes. But sometimes it'll just be opposite. Like, Arnold draws something awesome, and then I'm like, I got to figure out how to put that again. That looks sweet. So this was the first time, actually, we had something come right out of a story and franchise development. A lot of times, like, we're planning heroes, like, way ahead. So, we're thinking what heroes we want to do next, what heroes we want to prototype. And what we were thinking from the design side is like, we've had a couple DPS damage dealing characters come out post-release, being Sombra and Doomfist, but those characters are more on like the ability side. We tend to think of heroes as like majorly weapon focused or ability focused a lot of times. So, heroes like Pharah and Widowmaker, for example, are very weapon focused. They have abilities but the abilities very much support their weapon. They're all about applying that weapon as well as they can. And obviously characters like Doomfist are just all about their abilities. So those are kind of the differences. So we were kind of already thinking like, man, we know it'd be cool to do like a more weapon focused hero, and we're kind of in that space. And like almost at the same time, we get these like, you guys saw the real early like sketches of storyboards and stuff we're getting from the reunion video, and like it was like immediate with Ash. Like we saw her, we're like, oh my god, she's amazing. And like seeing that lever action rifle, we were just like, that would be a super fun gun to make. We think we can do really cool stuff with that. So we saw that, we were all super excited, and like independently, we had a couple designers go back and actually like write up proposals for designs like right away. And we sent them out. Actually, I think Bob was the one thing that made it through to the design. Like from multiple people were like, we got to get Bob in there. He's so awesome.
I love that you had multiple people who just ran off on their own separately, and when started building design docs for it.
Yeah, it was like we were super excited. So this is sort of the kit we ended up with. Again, she's very much focused on this weapon that we call the Viper, which is a lever action rifle. So it's interesting in the same way that like McCree's the revolver, and it's sort of like, why would you use a revolver sort of in the future? But his is super high powered and it has that like energy, edge to it. It's kind of a very personalized weapon. Hers is very much the same thing. I'll go ability by ability here. So the Viper has a lot of really interesting properties to it. The main way you use it is, you can see the video here, you just kind of use primary fire really quickly without using the alternate fire. You could just fire pretty fast, almost like McCree's alternate fire, but it's not as, McCree almost loses control of the thing when he shoots it really fast, but she has a lot more control, and it doesn't fire quite as fast. And it doesn't fire the whole thing at once, you can kind of do piecemeal. But if you use the alternate fire, that's when you really aim in. It's a lot slower rate of fire, but it hits really hard. So that's typically where you're going to want to do is try to, aim in and try to get those headshots. It also has an interesting property we've never done before, where she doesn't reload by sticking a magazine in there. It really wouldn't make sense for a lever action rifle, I suppose. So you can see there in the video, you have to reload every bullet by bullet as you go. I mean, it reloads like in a loop for you, but you could stop anytime you want. But it's sort of a cost for if you're not using the alternate fire for the slow rate of fire. If you want to just shoot all your bullets really fast and try to take someone out, you can do a pretty good amount of damage doing that, but then you have like this long reload where you have to like put every bullet back in. It can take quite a while.
What's great about that is like you can empty your entire, all your bullets, and then duck behind a corner, put 2 in, and just jump out and fire, and jump back, put 1 more in.
Yeah, it's
so
really
it's just
cool.
very organic and very just fast.
And first ability called the Coach Gun. Actually, thinking back, it's actually interesting. Like Jason was saying, Bob's sort of unicorn. In a lot of ways, Ash is sort of unicorn for us because we go through so many prototypes, iterations on heroes. Like we'll just throw an ability on, and like within one playtest, it didn't work. Try something else. And Ash pretty much came together like the whole thing, and we didn't really. We iterated a lot, but we didn't like swap out whole abilities, which is actually pretty rare. So her Coach Gun here is, like I said, she's mostly a weapon-focused hero, so it's an ability that does damage, but its true purpose isn't so much the amount of damage that it does, it's more of the mobility it gives her. Not only does it knock herself backwards away, but it also knocks the enemies you hit away. So you can actually create like this double distance or knock somebody up if you want to. It's kind of a fun trick shot. You can knock somebody up in the air and then pull up a shot and hit them out of the air if you want to get, on YouTube or something. So this ability is really cool. It's kind of her only real escape. So you get like Winston jumping on you or something like that. This is like your one your one good way out of jail, a free card, hopefully, if you can hit him, if he doesn't block it with a shield.
That's useful for a criminal.
That's true. The getaway?
Get a jail free card. Terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, I'm going to pretend you didn't say that. Okay, her next ability is called Dynamite. This ability actually does a ton of damage. So even though she's kind of all about the weapon, she does have this one very highly damaging ability. The main reason it does a lot of damage because you can see it takes quite a while to go off. You throw it down, and Overwatch is a very fast-paced game. You throw this thing down, and it sits on the ground for 2 seconds. No one's really going to be sitting on it, like waiting for it to go off. Like, okay, I'll give you this one. So even though it does a ton of damage, it has this long fuse. It can be hard to use, but she does have a trick up her sleeve where she can shoot it at any time with either the coach gun or her Viper and detonate it early. So there's a lot of really cool trick shots you could do. You could throw it, hit somebody around a corner by shooting it just at the right time as it's going around the corner, which is really common because you'd be like wing somebody, then they're like hurt and they edge around a corner, you try to get them, and they go around. But actually, it's got a lot of use for just throwing it on the ground and letting the fuse detonate itself too. Like, you have a bunch of tanks rolling up through a choke or something, and if a bunch of their barriers up, and you're like, well, I'm not very good in this situation with my rifle. But if you just throw the dynamite down in front of them, it's like you can't just kind of walk through that really slowly because it does so much damage. So there's a lot of utility in this ability as well. And then, of course, couldn't be Ash without Bob. So I do have to say, Ash almost didn't happen because we were adamant about Bob being with her. Yeah. And it was surprisingly, technically very challenging to get her in the game. There's a lot of technical requirements and memory constraints. We have characters like Torbjorn that can create a turret, but a turret is much less detailed than Bob is. Bob's pretty much a full hero. It's like, for that moment in time, you can get 2 heroes on the map at the same time, essentially.
Yeah, a turret can't do uppercuts, can't capture the payload for you.
That's true. Turret can't uppercut yet.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Feature request.
That's true. So Bob, the way he works is you call him in, he kind of jumps in over you and lands right in front of you and starts running forward. And the first person he hits, he knocks up in the air. He'll knock everyone around in the air if he hits anybody. And then he'll come to a stop and start shooting. He pulls out his arm cannons and starts shooting. He'll also, if he hits a wall, he'll just turn around and start shooting as well. So it's really powerful for just, you can do alley-oop moves, which is really fun. If you hit somebody with it, he does a lot of damage knocking them up in the air, but they also lose air control when they're in the air. They can still do their abilities and everything, so if you're like Reaper, you can Wraith form and try to avoid further damage. But if you're somebody who doesn't have that, you kind of get knocked in the air, and Ash is like, well, this is the perfect opportunity, like a really easy moving target here. So that's a great combo with him. But even if you don't follow through with that, if you just throw him into a wall, now you have this really powerful turret with a ton of health behind the enemy, which, Overwatch tends to be this kind of game with a lot of battle lines, and now you have this really powerful thing they have to deal with. You can't just let it shoot everybody back there. So you kind of cause a lot of chaos there, and she gets to just have free reign while he's going crazy. Bob also has a couple of properties about him that are very, very different than other turrets and what we call pets in the game. He, in a lot of ways, acts like a 7th hero on your team. He can be healed. He can be debuffed and buffed. He can be nano boosted. That's a really good combo, by the way. If you try that, it's really powerful. He can also be slept though. So if you sleep him and nobody shoots him, let's hope that happens, then it sort of nullifies him entirely. So there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do. Zarya bubble and everything. He also can capture and contest points for you. So he's he's there. We actually had a time. We had to change a few things. Because it was getting a little crazy the amount of stuff he could do. Because he was, for a while internally, we just let him literally be a full hero in the game. But it led to weird moments where it was like, okay, you're playing an elimination deathmatch game, and then you die, but right before you die, you throw him out there, and then you die, but the game's not over because you still have a member on your team still in the game. And as long as he kills everybody else, you win, because your team was still alive.
Nice. Seems fair.
We had to change that one. There was also a moment where the game wasn't started yet. You'd have waiting for players, and it'd be 5 on one team, 6 on another, and you'd call Bob, and the game would start because it's oh, it's 6, we're good. It's okay.
I mean, I might rather have Bob than some of the teammates.
Fair enough.
He stays on the objective.
And he doesn't talk back?
It's true. All right, so that's kind of the overview of everything you could do. We actually have a video showing it all in action. We'll run that now.
Funny. They say there's no honor among thieves, but that's not how things work around here. If you cross me, Or if you break your word, they'll be hell to pay. You can count on it. Let's clean up this mess. You wanna try me? Poser. Back off. Unstoppable. Burn it all down. Now that gets the blood pumping. There you are. I'm calling the shots. Bob, do something!
Jeff, is it true that it's one of Ash's passive abilities that if she melees Mickey while ulting, it's
Yeah, that's-
instant initiation?
Maybe we should put that in. That'd be great.
I feel like we need a Bob cinematic. Just
Oh.
it would be a silent film.
I love that we got the Bob do something line from the
From the cinematic.
Yeah.
as their alt line. Like that's just
Yeah,
so
it was
awesome.
actually a funny story. So, like I was saying, we were working on production early, and we were prototyping everything. And one of the things about prototyping is we don't have any assets yet. So I'm usually like just stealing whatever we have. Like, I get a skin from this character, and like, I'm a terrible VFX artist, so whatever I can do for VFX, just get it in there. And then I was realizing that, like, man, we really need, like, when Bob is summoned in the playtest, we're having issues where it's like, you can't, people don't know or they don't hear him coming or whatever. We need like a line. I'm like, hey, wait, they already recorded these lines. We could just use these. So like, during like the prototyping, all the time we would be here, Bob get in there and smoke him out of there every time she threw a dynamite. It was like ingrained in our consciousness every time we played her. But it was great to have that sort of extra advantage you working on the prototype.
Totally. Yeah, so Ash is a really special character for us because this is one of the unique times where we get to realize a character from, created from story and franchise development into our game. We had something like that with Brigitte, where we took her first from the comic into the animated short, and then into the game we kind of armored her up. Well, with Ash, this is really the first time that we took the character directly as she was designed into the game, because we were so excited early on, seeing those storyboards, seeing those concepts by the artist, and making sure that because they were so exciting to see, that all the feedback we were giving was like, yeah, this character might make it into the game. This is like, when we first saw Bob, we're like, oh, this is like so cool. I wonder what kind of abilities he would have, or Ash, what kind of weapons she would use, and just making sure that everything we did with those characters would make them great heroes in the game as well. So that's true for Ash, and our character artist, we're able to bring her into the game looking just like she does in the cinematic, making maybe some small adjustments here and there, but she's fully in the game now. And then, of course, there's also Bob. Yeah, shout outs to Bob.
I think they like him.
I think
Yeah.
Bob win. All right.
So Bob, actually, sharing your excitement here, the artists on the Overwatch team were also very excited hearing that Bob was going to be the ultimate for Ash, but we're also a little bit apprehensive and a little bit nervous because this was really the first time we had literally two heroes or two characters in the slot of one hero. In the game of Overwatch, it's a 6v6, and not to get too technical into it, but we kind of have a budget for each character that for performance of the game, not to to break the game. And for us to put two characters in the game was a new thing for us. We kind of had Wrecking Ball with the hamster and the mech, and we had Diva with her, the pilot and the mech. But this is the first time having like a full-fledged character. I mean, Bob is pretty much as big as Reinhardt size, and Ash is as big as just any of our other heroes. And fitting that into the budget was a huge challenge, but one that the character artists and the engineers on the Overwatch team really took to, and just you can see here that we were able to recreate Bob just as faithfully as we could. It was great that he was almost perfectly symmetrical, except for the little 2 pieces of tape, on his vest over there. There's another element like on there that's symmetrical. I'll let you guys find that one. But yeah, we were able to recreate Bob in the game, and everyone's super excited. And the next challenge for us was, how do we literally bring him into the game? Now that he was in there, we wanted to, for the gameplay, for him to appear very instantly, because this was a very important gameplay mechanic where Ash summons Bob, sometimes as an escape mechanic. You want to just knock out the person that's right in front of you. So it's imperative that he appears very quickly. And early on, we kind of brainstormed all these different ideas. We're thinking like, oh, maybe he comes to a portal, or like maybe the kind of phases in like hard light, like Symmetra's turrets.
Like the one coming out of the ground like a mole.
Kind of busts out the ground, like the Kool-Aid Man. Maybe he drops down from a dropship, but all of those things just didn't feel like things that a biker gang or like a gang in the American Southwest would do. They all felt too techy or too sci-fi. So we took inspiration from other parts of the game. What if he was like more like Doomfist, his meteor strike, where he just kind of jumps up and comes right in. So we have Bob just like leaping in from a very far distance. Here's a movement concept from our concept artist, Ben Zhang, just kind of illustrating ideas on how we can have him appear on screen. Originally, we're thinking maybe we need a giant dust cloud to kind of hide the fact that he's coming real quick, but actually ended up turning out really, really intuitive, and actually he kind of comes in really smoothly, and kind of exits really smoothly. So I'm glad to see how he kind of got integrated into the game. The next thing we want to talk about is the Viper. So Jeff talked a little bit about this, but we really wanted to recreate Ash's gun as authentically as possible from the animated short, so making as little adjustments as possible. One thing we had to fine-tune a little bit is with the new reload mechanic that Jeff designed, we really wanted that reload to feel really good and have like a nice little port for the bullets to go into. Again, early on, we're brainstorming different ideas that she could kind of reload really quickly, because the reload has to be pretty quick to get, like, how many shots do you have, like 20?
She's 12 right now, I believe.
12 bullets in there. So we're thinking at first maybe she needs a speed loader or something. But again, that ended up feeling a little bit too techy, and there's just something about like that visceral sound of putting the bullets in by hand one at a time. It just feels really good. Another thing that the artists and game designers worked really hard on is getting that alternate fire to just feel really, really good. We have a lot of very passionate first-person shooter players on the art team and on the design team. And I just remember this moment where you guys were all just huddled around the desk, like fine-tuning the FOV, the field of view, and like the depth of field, like how blurry the background gets, or just like fine-tuning the size of the gun on the camera, just making it feel nice to get in that alt fire mode. And it feels awesome. I can't wait till you guys get to try it for yourselves. The next ability is the dynamite. So here we have a lot of different versions. We actually did a lot of exploration early on, because the ability originally started off as a cluster bomb, right?
Yeah, so originally, in some of the earlier playtesting, we just had to do a big explosion, but some of the problems we were finding was if you want to do a bunch of damage to tanks, or not even tanks, just people behind barriers, it's kind of hard because the explosion wasn't that big at the time, and you had to throw it so high you couldn't hit them. So we tried a design where you hit it and then it would like rain into cluster bombs, so you could like shoot it above people and rain on them. It was kind of really cool visually, but it kind of had a problem where it was like this extra now delay where you're shooting it and then the other things fall and then those have to explode, and it's like, game's so fast, it usually didn't work out that well unless you just got really lucky. But so we ended up going back to adding a bigger explosion, fire, and everything. Yeah,
so again, our lead concept artist, Ben Zhang, took a pass at you'll see the top row, those are more of the cluster bomb types, and then we went back to the more single dynamite design on the left side, and it was kind of reading a little bit too high-tech again. And then just turning it red, though, gave it that classic dynamite read from afar, but also looking closely, it has that nice kind of sci-fi Overwatch feel to it. So next is my favorite part.
Yeah.
Let's show some skins. So Ash and Bob are, I think, the most fun that the concept artists had designing skins, because usually, you have one character and first thing we do usually is come up with a theme for the skin. And there's usually all these different elements, like whether you're a pirate or, like a ninja or whatever, there's all these different things you could use to put onto the character, and usually it's too many. We end up pulling things out. But with Ash and Bob, we can really give them both all of these different elements from all of these different themes that we thought of. So the first one is the mobster.
Love that hat.
Yeah, those hats, man.
Hat.
The headwear is on point for Ash.
The
and
man
Bob.
knows how to wear a hat. He's got a great mustache.
Yeah,
true.
like just with the mustache and the hat, like Bob, you look so good. Yeah, like Jason was mentioning earlier, some of the early concepts felt like a little bit mobster. So we're like, wait a minute, let's save that idea for later. We did this old-timey mobster skin, and the concept artist on this, Morten Skalvik, he was telling me, originally we actually had her with the black kind of overalls and the white shirt, and that ended up looking too much like her original look, so we ended up kind of swapping the colors on that, and it actually turned out really, really good. And the next one is the safari skin. Yeah. Safari wins is going to be in trouble.
I love this
friends.
skin. This is phenomenal.
Got the little goatee now.
Yeah, he got a goatee.
Yeah, again, the hats are just like awesome. Again, Morten was telling me, like, with designing skins for Ash and Bob, one of the things he wanted to keep in mind was making sure that, you know, Ash always felt like the leader, and Bob always felt like the lackey, and it really comes through in these two designs. And these are super awesome in the game as well. And, you know, they'll be coming out with Ash shortly. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys for joining us.
Can we play her?
Yeah.
Can we play her?
You guys can play her right now, actually. She's on the floor here. Hopefully the line's not too big, but yeah, please definitely play her. Give us feedback on everything. We love to get any kind of feedback, especially initial reactions and everything.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you for attending Overwatch.